Alright, everybody, hello and welcome back to Nod Crime. Little bit of an interesting development for this one, which you might already know from the title and the thumbnail and all that. But basically, I sat down today ready to continue with the rest of the Archon quest. I've actually already recorded the optional objectives in this area, so next would just be proceeding on following the Luonatar, but it has come to my attention that there's maintenance scheduled for later today. And I really don't want the Archon quest to be interrupted by the maintenance reminders. And so, since we can easily avoid that, we're going to do something I've been wanting to do for a long time instead. And basically, as you may know, one goal of mine was to do sort of lore readings. I really wanted to maybe get in the habit of having something of a weekly stream where we read a book. I have so many books from, like, all the way back in Mondstadt that I've never read. And besides just the books, there's so many other readable things in this game. Artifacts, ascension materials, talent materials, so on. And there's a lot of material to cover. As we've been progressing further and further through this Archon quest, I've been getting more and more worried that I'm not making connections that I should be because I haven't read those earlier materials. You know, with my main focus being on catching up in the game, I've been progressing through the quests faster than I have been able to keep up with the reading material, especially since we haven't been able to get the stream started. As you may have seen, in my last attempt at streams, there have been internet issues. Why? I want to do my homework. Why won't the internet let me? Anyways, so that's basically where we are now. I've been wanting for literal months to be dedicating a significant portion of my time to doing more reading. Hopefully through streams. Those streams have not been working out. Suddenly we're hit with maintenance today, and I really don't want it to interrupt with the Archon quest, so you know what? We're gonna kill two birds with one stone and dedicate this episode to being a little bit of an interlude between Act 2 and Act 3, and try to get as much reading done as possible. While we're on that, we might as well do a couple other homework-y things. So, I do have a lot planned for today. We'll see how it goes. The first thing I actually want to do is a little bit more questy. I want to go check on Columbina. Because it's been... Ooh, she's blue now. Ha 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 ha. As you can see, it has been a turn of a week. And it seems that there is more now to do over here. Wow. Fascinating how co-op immediately gets disabled and my party goes away. So we're going to check in over here, see what's up with these chronicles. Why? Why? Oh my god. Oh! I love how she just stopped singing. Is Columbina not in? There she is.
For me?
Oh my god, jump scare. Hello! Man, her design is so good. You scared me! You really had to pop up from behind like that?
After sensing your arrival, I wanted to see how close I could get to you from behind.
So you wanted to startle us?
Because you had nothing better to do? Or...
She's being playful.
Is that how it seems? No different than when I was with the Fatui then. There was never much for me to do.
Okay, I guess that's nice to hear. She wasn't too actively involved with some of their sinister plots, hopefully.
The Tsaritsa only sought the power of the moon goddesses. I was never dispatched to see Xenosis or anything like that.
But it seems like they did give her quite a bit of information. Potentially they saw it as harmless to let her know, oh yeah, child's off in Larua to go get a gnosis. Normally you'd think that would be kept top secret, but I guess she was given that information. So, what would you do to pass the time?
Take walks, watch the moon, sometimes sing. But I came to do that last one less and less after Sandrone forbade it.
What? Why would she do that? Oh, she'd probably say, like, it's getting annoying or something. Oh, I could see maybe she just sang the one song that she knows over and over again, because that's her link to her past, right? She's trying really hard to hold on to it. And I could see Sandrone getting annoyed with it, but don't listen to her!
She didn't like your singing?
Also, if all she had to do for centuries was just walk around and look at things and sing... That sounds so... boring. I'm so sorry, Columbina.
No, She praised it, actually. But I had only recently joined the Fatui then, and she said my singing set the others on edge.
So what?
Because, for those not in the know, it seemed like I was about to use some sort of power.
I see. They thought she was invoking her powers as a goddess, maybe.
Oh, huh. Paimon can sort of understand that.
Still, I wonder how long ago that was. Probably around 500 years. So Sandrone is 500 years old, potentially, then.
Oh, and there was another reason. She said she did most of her research at night, so if I sang during the day, it would disturb her attempts to catch up on sleep.
I'm confused about the logistics here. Was she sleeping in your room? Were you going to hers to sing? Couldn't she have just gone to another part of the complex and slept over there, or you went outside? They sound simultaneously glued to the hip and also incompatible in a way? This was the main reason, I'll bet.
So, I used to just sing outside her door at night instead. But still, she always chased me away.
So you were going to her room to sing to her. That's so sweet. But also, why? Did you just really want someone to be there to hear the song? You know, there's something about singing to yourself, but there's also a different feeling when you're singing to someone else. You wanted to be able to share that with someone?
Uh-huh.
Did you get along with the others?
Get along? When we first met, Harlequino did seem eager to get along with me.
What does that even mean? Was she trying to adopt her? Was she trying to assess her threat level?
She often showed up behind me without making a sound, like I did to you earlier. She said it was an attempt to test me, I believe.
Oh my god, she really was assessing her skill level.
I too attempted to join in on the game, but she always managed to spot me before I even got close.
But I'm still not sure. What do you think? Was she assessing to see, oh, is this a lost child in need of guidance? Or is this a threat to my children? I wonder.
Eventually, I resorted to using Kuvaki and managed to give her quite a scare from behind. But she never played that game with me again after that.
Yeah. I could see that happening. She learned. She grew.
Yeah. Paimon doubts that was a game to the knave at all.
It is so funny to see such different people interacting with each other.
What else?
Or at least hear about it, you know?
Oh, the doctor often asked me to assist in his light realm related research.
How so?
I obliged him a few times, but it was so dull. Use Kuvaki to strike this. Use Kuvaki to control that. I stopped going after a while.
I am intensely concerned what this and that refer to here. Looks like you're in a good mood today. You spoke quite a bit about your past.
Yes. Even though I've run away from home, I do have some fond memories of it all the same.
Glad to hear that, I guess.
Harlequino and Sandrone treated me quite well, along with...
Wait, yes? Someone you can't quite remember? I wonder just instinctively that's the feeling I'm getting. I wonder if she would remember him, though. Assumedly not. But who else could it be? That expression. I wonder who she's thinking about. You know, it could be Capitano. This could be an expression of mourning right here. Because he's gone now. And I could see him treating her well.
Give me your hand.
Huh? Why?
Rosaline taught me. It's important to always express gratitude to others.
Oh, Rosaline treated her well? Really? Wow. I wonder why. Was she respectful towards her because she was a goddess? Somehow I doubt that. But maybe it was she recognized Columbina's position for what it was, and the lack of power that she had for what it was. I wonder, do you suppose she saw something of herself in Columbina? I don't know much about Rosaline. Oh my god, it's been so long since she was mentioned. Her backstory. We read something about it in one of the artifact sets, right? I vaguely remember the vibes. But I wonder if maybe she saw Columbina kind of like a younger version of her, perhaps. Fascinating. Okay, well, this is awkward. It's important to always express gratitude to others. She's asked for our hand. I don't suppose she knows of our hand, our role in Rosaline's death. Don't mention it.
So, thank you for listening to me.
You're so welcome. Thank you for sharing with us. Is this the Moon Goddess's favor?
I believe that's enough for today.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Whoa, that was sudden.
Shh, Paimon. She's remembering certain things from her past, I think.
Yeah, guess you're right. Well, let's not bother her then.
Wow, okay. So basically, every time we come back... Ooh. Ooh. We get to learn a little bit more about her, potentially. I wonder, that New Moon's Embrace, does it go over here at all? Ooh, what's this? Wait, how do I get this? Oh, complete the Archon Quest True Moon to unlock. How long has this been here? What? Okay, okay. Moving on. I'm looking for... What a cool name. What a cool name. Oh my god. Ah, anyways, okay. New Moon's Embrace. Let's see. New Moon, no. They told us a little bit about it last time. I just want to review the details. It's basically like a temporary buff, right? It's for a limited time, but it seems we can re-up it once a week, so maybe that's the uptime. And I was just wondering if maybe it changes every time, or if it's the same thing. Hello, my friend. What can I do for you today? Oh, I've got 2 moons now! Yippee! She took a beam of moonlight and in return bestowed you with the Moon Goddess's favor. Right, we were able to give her some strength from the Moon Marrow, right? Though she claims to have run away from home, she seems to have some fond memories of it all the same. This is neat. If we do get to learn more and more about her and or from her as we move on in these segments, it kind of mirrors a real-time development of her comfort with us, like her level of trust she has in us. It'll take some time to develop that. That's kind of neat. I like that. Just tidying up the place. Thank you for your time, my friend. Farewell. And she really is gone, I guess. Alright, well, we will see you next time. What is next on my list of things to do? Let's see. I made a list. Oh, okay, here we go. Another questy thing. In the comments, someone mentioned that I should visit a certain teleporter. They said northwest of Blue Amber Lake. So potentially this one. Maybe over here. You know what? I think it's over here, because they said I could find Danusha and get some closure on the Blue Amber Lake quest. So I wonder... I think I saw her here when I was passing through a while back. I think that's her right there. I had a thought as well, because I have since edited the Blue Amber Lake video. It's so funny to me watching back my own videos, because it's nice to have the opportunity to learn things a second time and to have different thoughts about them. So for instance, I was very torn over what the name situation was at Blue Amber Lake. I'm wondering if maybe the guy who tried to kill Papa Wrench, I forget his name, don't worry about it. Zhorik? Oh my god, I think I just remembered a name. It's a miracle. He might have married into the family and taken on the last name. I kept assuming that if there was a marriage, his last name would have been the one adopted, but maybe it was just the other way around. He adopted the Shesternan last name, and that would explain a lot. So, hello, Danusha. You would be the daughter. Where did he go? What brings you here? Oh, I'm waiting for Zurich! That was his name! Do you know where he went? We agreed to meet back here with his friend from Nasha Town. But they haven't shown up. I'm worried that something might have happened to them. Tolvin? That's our guy. Did advise against taking this route earlier. Should I tell the truth about Zurich and Papa Wrench? If you see Zurich around, could you tell him that I'm waiting for him here? I will keep an eye out. There's something about Zurich that I must tell you. We are not going to keep her waiting here forever. She probably already suspects. Let's see what this dialogue option gives us. Bless your kind heart. Let's talk to this guy. It's not safe around these parts. You should get some insurance. Better safe than sorry, eh? Who are you? I'm the proprietor of this here rest stop. The only safe place for miles around. Whether you're after a break from the road or looking to replenish your supplies, you'd do well not to pass us by. Oh, and we sell insurance. This is a cursed place. There was the shipwreck a few years ago, and more recently, merchants have been getting attacked. Then there's that nothing passage. A little while back, I spotted a whole bunch of northerners. Fatui they was. They dragged all sorts of heavy equipment inside. And then what? Who knows? Not one of 'em's come out. Anyway, it's extremely dangerous. Even an adventurer like you should be wary. Thank you for your concern. Insurance? It works like this. You give me a bunch of mora for a policy, and then if, or when, the unthinkable happens, within the confines of this here specified region, naturally, I'll pay out 10 times the mora to your designated beneficiary. How about it? I don't think I'll need it. Young people always think it won't happen to them. I'm curious about his accent. I wish you were voice acted. I think I would love to hear your voice. Alright, well, I think we'll be fine. If I were to get insurance, I would make my beneficiary Paimon. Or I could make my beneficiary my brother. Please, send all this mora to the Abyss Order, if you wouldn't mind. That sounds like the type of quest that'd be given to us from the Adventurers Guild. Anyways. Hi, Denusha. I have something to tell you. There is something about Zurich that I must tell you. You tell Denusha everything that happened. How do you feel? I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. At least he didn't kill him. He tried to, but he survived. So, I mean, if that's any consolation at all? The father was... Zurich... No, that's impossible. It was just an accident. And father... Why did you have to tell me all this? I always thought I had no chance of recovering what was lost. Zurich did surround himself with questionable people, but father always told me to be compassionate. He wouldn't have agreed to our marriage otherwise. And he probably agreed to the marriage because he wanted his daughter to be happy and she loved him. And we read about that also in the readables, right? When we were learning about Papa Wrench's life with the whale. He's kind. He sees the good in everyone. We are in some trouble now, but I believe we can make it through. I've spoken too much. Maybe I should go find him instead of waiting here. Yes, I should do that. Farewell then, kind soul. Regardless of what happens, thank you. And then she fades away. Nope, she's still there. Oh, but I can't talk to her anymore. Wow. Alright, well, good luck with that. I wonder if their trouble that they're in... We read a little bit about it in the readable on the mountain by the whale, right? With the treasure hoarders. I'm betting it's debts. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's to the Fatui. So, good luck with that, Denusha. Anyways, okay, so on to our next segment, which is what? Let us see. Let us check the list. Aha, okay. It is time to get a reading. So, let's go... I guess we might as well put ourselves over here. Let me get back to where I was. It's a little bit of a trek. Alrighty, so this is approximately where I was. I like how pretty it is here. I like the music. Oh, Chicken Atlan's over there. Hello, my love. So, we're going to be doing some reading. I have one more fun thing that is not reading that I've planned for... We'll do it at the end of the video. because I think it will kind of transition us back into Nodcry thoughts, potentially. So, let's get a reading. We have 2 things I'd really love to get through today, and they are ones I've been trying to get to for a while, so they may come as no surprise to you. Let's track them down. Alrighty, so we're going to start here with Men of Lithin, because we got this one all the way back in Fontaine, if I remember correctly. So let's start with our older of the 2 texts today. So Men of Lithin, let's get a volume description. A fantasy novel doing the rounds among the tribes of Natlan that is said to be translated from... Natlan? Oh my god, did I... Oh, I got it in Natlan, but the cover reminds me of Remuria. That's why I thought Fontaine. Okay, restarting. A fantasy novel doing the rounds among the tribes of Natlan that is said to be translated from a popular work by the reputedly famous Fontanian author something Yan, Kinyan. The Natlanese who have visited the court of Fontaine, however, claim to have been unable to find the original. Nor has anyone managed to find a local who's ever heard of an author named Kinyan. Right? So the person is definitely not from Fontaine. What kind of name? I think I had a guess for where they were from when we first read this. This description is familiar. Is that dragon-like in name? Maybe. We'll see. Okay. Here we go. Volume 1. It is the 3rd millennium since the flame was stolen. Since records began, there has never been an age as enlightened and reasoned as this. Even on moonless nights, the countless towering monoliths of the metropolis are illuminated by innumerable lights. The metal pipes that connect the streets and districts shine with a resplendent glow, the golden liquid flowing within, imbuing the city with a vital energy. That aureate fluid is lithin, the lifeblood of human civilization. Since the technocracy first discovered it 100 years ago... Technocracy? It has been the source of countless innovations, leading humanity into a new era. Automated tilling machines revolutionized... Is this Conria? Automated tilling machines revolutionized farming, more than sextupling agricultural yields, while airborne shuttles soared into the sky, connecting the once isolated cities dotting the continent. Wow. Is this... okay, dragon civilization? Airborne shuttles... okay, to be fair, this is theoretically fictional. They could be pulling elements of technology that existed in multiple civilizations into the one fictional civilization of this story. But still, let's keep an eye on that. The people of today can no longer imagine a world without Lithin. This applies doubly so for the rulers of the now interconnected cities. Lithin was first discovered in the ruins of the ancient settlement known as Natlantea, a city located deep within the earth, thus allowing for the mining of the substance, whose roots lie deeper still. So this Lithin, potentially it's a fictionalized version of phlogiston would be my guess? The ancient settlement known as Natlantea, a city located deep within the earth. Cities within the earth that I know of. In Konomiya, I don't think it's that one. The sacred city of Tolan, right? The dragon civilization had potentially multiple cities underground, if I remember correctly, that were connected. And Hyperborea, we read about, is kind of inconsistent in its description. It has said that it's been beneath the earth and that it's been beneath the water. Potentially it was beneath the earth and then it sunk even more, or the other way around. Anyways, I feel like this Natlantea is potentially an equivalent of Tolan. But, you know, we shall continue to read and see where the pieces fall. Pieces of the puzzle, that is. But yeah, because this Lithin being golden and powering technology really does remind me of phlogiston, particularly because of the flying technology. As there was no way to drill so deep from the surface, Lithin production was concentrated in the hands of those who controlled the Natlantean ruins, the Technocratic Assembly. As demand for Lithin grew, conflicts arose between the cities over its supply and distribution. As disputes became ever more common and increasingly bitter, the specter of war grew ever darker, enveloping the land. So, okay, caveat to what we were just talking about, I suppose Remuria could also be considered an underground civilization. And they had something similar. Did they, though? Not really, because their new form of life was based off the symphony. It's Fontaine that eventually developed Indemnitium through the work of Focalor and the Oratrice. So I still think that a connection to the Dragon Civilization and Tolan is the most likely here. Okay, moving on. Conflicts. Though, at least for today, the residents of the metropolis have temporarily forgotten the shadow that hangs over them, as they crowd the streets and plazas, the Continental Fair being held in their city. This grand event, organized by the Technocratic Assembly, is a celebration of peace and progress, showcasing the latest inventions and fruits of technological innovation. Even though these inventions will likely soon contribute to the growing arms race between the disparate cities, they still serve as temporary comfort to an anxious populace. That is, except for you! Well, hello, you! You feel no interest in the novel playthings on show, or the crowds who gather to gawk at them. The hustle and bustle of the fair only heightens the unease you feel at the decision to meet here. A few weeks ago, a group of insurrectionists destroyed the Lithan transfer hub in Sath, before broadcasting a pre-recorded projection, repeating the same old cliches that Lithan is a demonic gift, and that the technocracy are destroying the world. Apart from titling themselves as heralds of the unenlightened, there was nothing to differentiate them from any other such malcontents. However, the ruler of Sath declared that the insurrectionists had acted at the instigation of top figures within the metropolis, in hopes of provoking war between the two cities, even going so far as to provide evidence showing that each one was a metropolitan citizen. Metropolitan citizen? In order to clear their name and defuse the situation, the metropolitan authorities requested the Technocratic Assembly's intervention, and it is to this end that you are here, pursuing an investigation. My apologies, Mr. Detective, to have kept you waiting. This exhibition really is wonderful. It's been hard to tear myself away. Just as you are pondering the connection between these events, a short, rotund gentleman hails you from behind. It would appear that this is Akra, the agent the Technocratic Assembly has sent you to aid in your investigation. You can dispense the formalities, Akra. Let us start with what we know. Let's start with what we each know. Okay, so the plot thickens. So there's the metropolis and the Atlantean ruins. I think is the other city. Because there's the metropolis and the city that they have tensions with, in hopes of provoking a war between the two cities. There's multiple interconnected ones, but I think two are the ones in question. Oh, Sath! Ah. Potentially. I was thinking of Sath as like a little outcropping, a waypoint, the Lithan transfer hub area. But maybe that's a whole city. The ruler of Sath and the metropolis. Okay, I think those are our two seats of power here. And that makes more sense, because the Atlantean ruins are not an active city, and they are controlled in general by the technocracy, which is probably comprised of these allied cities, but they're all trying to get a bigger piece of the pie. In general, more control over Atlantia and the Lithan. Okay. Volume 2. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, you would never have believed that this prosperous metropolis yet harbored the remnants of such a benighted age. After days of investigation, you and Akra finally locate the insurrectionists known as the Unenlightened, hiding out in a decrepit church in the shadow of a hulking bridge. Their location leaves you more convinced than ever that this is merely a band of Luddites left behind in the wake of progress, not some insidious tool of a more sinister political plot. Regardless, you need evidence to present before the Technocratic Assembly, and so you and Akra decide to wait for the insurrectionists to leave their base. On one of their seemingly endless missions to transport some unknown cargo, before sneaking inside to gather the proof you need. You stake out their hideouts for a full 3 weeks before you finally seize your chance. By now you are sure that there are 12 of them coming and going from the church, and on this particular morning they have all left together on their transport. Based on your observations, they are unlikely to return before dusk. Akra stands sentry by the door, as you enter the church alone. I would be concerned though, why are all 12 leaving? Where are they going? The long and winding corridor is filled with a sickly scent, reminiscent of formaldehyde. You grope about in the dark until you finally find the exit. Perhaps it is because it is lit by archaic oil lamps. The inside of the church appears much larger than expected. In the dim light, you can just about make out stacks of strange metal vats along the walls. It must be these that the group has been transporting away. You approach the vats carefully, noticing that each one has a label stuck to it, all of them displaying the single word, ignorance. Perhaps this has something to do with some ancient religion, you think to yourself. Just as you are preparing to pick up one of the vats and take it with you to investigate, a pair of cold hands clamp down on your shoulders. Darn it! You and Akra had diligently staked out the church for 3 weeks, and only 12 people had entered or exited in all the time you were watching. Either this one had never left, or there was another exit you didn't know about. In your panic, you kick open one of the metal vats. The stench of formaldehyde, the very same you detected while entering, is overpowering. The pungent smell helps clear your head a little, and you finally see clearly the man who has accosted you from behind. His face could charitably be described as human, but where his eyes should be, there are only 2 empty sockets set amidst twisted features. "Did you see it? Did you see it?" he screams, thrusting out his thick arms and grasping at the air around him. He is clearly blind. Perhaps this is the reason you haven't seen him venture outside. Once you realize he can't see you, you quickly move back to the entrance of the room, and stumble out through the dark corridor outside. "Hey, detective, what's going on? Hey, careful! What are you running for?" Through your fear and confusion, you hear your companion's voice, followed by a flurry of hurried footsteps as he quickly rushes over to your side. Your mission has not gone smoothly, yet you still have something to show for it. At the very least, you managed to take one of those strange vats with you as you fled. With this in mind, you clamber to your feet. You look up to find a monstrosity gazing back at you, an apparition somewhere between a skeleton and a machine. Its face is sunken, a pair of lifeless, hollow eyes boring into you, and then a cold voice. "You saw it, didn't you, unenlightened one?" Dun dun dun! And there's our cover image. Let's see. Indeed, indeed. Volume 3. A colossal head and slender limbs, connected by countless threads to a seemingly reptilian body. What you are looking at is a human. It is the last specimen of its kind in the world. The monstrosity in front of you is gesturing to another creature, floating in a nearby cultivation tank. Even though you have become accustomed to your companion's visage, you do your best to look away. The sight of its eyes still sends shivers down your spine. If this is a human, then what are we? You ask the creature that, until recently, you had known as Akra. Now that you think about it, it seems obvious that this would merely be a codename used in the technocratic assembly. By means of some unfathomable technology, the church is connected to Natlantia. Perhaps every city has just such a place. Somewhere to connect them in the dark. You? If you mean those that dwell on the surface, pugs, beagles, little gray men, we have had many names for them through the ages. But whatever you choose to call them, they are creatures we designed. Their biological functions are in perfect contrast to our own. The environment in which we thrive is deathly toxic to them, and vice versa. It is precisely because of this that the degradation they cause is vital to recreating a world suited to our existence. If things really are as this creature claims, The entire history of our civilization is the result of their planning, and the countless technological marvels and inventions that we now enjoy were bestowed on us by them. They have always been right here beside us, and yet we never saw them. In their words, this is because of a gland in our brains that secretes a gaseous substance called the fog of reason, preventing us from perceiving the world as it truly is. The only reason I can perceive this creature's hideous form right now is that I inhaled the gas known as ignorance, a substance that I myself had created in my previous incarnation? Whoa, the plot twists just keep on coming. I have one more question. Having given us Lithin, how can you guarantee that we'll destroy each other in a great war once it runs out? Lithin, the miraculous energy source discovered amongst the Atlantean ruins, is the energy-based form of these creatures. After their civilization had descended into a large-scale war that covered the planet in a hazardous substance, the surviving humans decided to transfer their essence into pure energy and store themselves in a biovault deep underground. Following this, they designed a brand new species, one that could survive on the polluted planet they had created. They hoped that this new species would aid in the biodegradation of the harmful substance until the surface was habitable again and they could begin anew. Yet that new world would have no place for their creations. Once the surface dwellers discovered Lithin and used it to advance their civilization, the ancient beings from beneath the earth would start to re-emerge. And so they wait for the day when surface civilization destroys itself, a catastrophe that will give them new life. Perhaps you've heard of psychohistory, or probably not. It hardly matters. The point is, besides designing biological functions, the design of a species' history is also a simple matter of technology. The incessantly questing heart, the barely controllable greed, the drive for victory. It all leads them to the same inevitable conclusion. The unenlightened deny it, but that is only because your senseless morals have yet to be overcome by evolution. At long last, you arrive at the final room in the deepest depths of the biovault, where the last memories of countless generations of the unenlightened are stored. When the survivors of this ancient civilization decided to transfer their life force into Lithin, there were those among them, though a minority, who resisted. They refused to abandon their individuality and merge into boundless singular wisdom. Because of this, they were labeled the unenlightened. The majority were unable to deny them their rights, simply preserving for them this final room, allowing them to live out incarnation after incarnation among the life forms on the surface. Those who considered themselves enlightened believed that one day their brethren would choose to join them and return to the embrace of the whole. Indeed, you are the leader of the unenlightened. You have witnessed the countless memories of sages who established the codes of law, of poets who extolled the graces of virtue, and of warriors who fought against the oppression of tyrants. At the start of each memory, you see a huge figure cast its shadow over those who were exiled from the ancient city. The figure seems to speak, but you can no longer recall the words. All you remember is that you yearn for him. Perhaps every generation of the unenlightened eventually returns here to give their answer. In that case, what will your answer be? Wow! Wow! Oh my god, I see why this is so popular in world. This would be such a cool book to read and then talk about with other people, because it poses to you this question, what would your answer be? Oh my god, okay, so much happened in this. I feel like it referenced so many different concepts from around this world. What on earth? Okay, will I even remember everything? Let's see. I have so many thoughts. Let's see if we can get them all. So, the countless towering monoliths of the metropolis are illuminated by innumerable lights. I haven't even played... What's it called? Similanka. But this reminds me of Similanka. The metropolis, illuminated by innumerable lights, like the stars. Beautiful image. This golden liquid reminds me of... What is it called? Ichor? The blood of the gods? Mentioned in Remuria, but also as mentioned earlier, the phlogiston used in Natlan. And the definition of humans and human civilization shifting over this was incredible. I was thinking, technically, we don't know if our main character is human this entire time until you get to down here where he runs into this person. His face could charitably be described as human. So, okay, whoever this narrator is, they are someone who thinks kindly upon humans. So likely it's that they're human. And then, plot twist! Okay, but one part I found really funny, just on the human topic, is he asks, if this is a human, then what are we? And the other person replies, formerly known as Aqua, replies, Pugs, beagles, little gray men. So, is the main character a dog? Anyway, I thought that was a thought I had. I thought it was entertaining. So, but okay, let's try to go a little bit in order. Technocratic Assembly, Lithin, Atlantean Ruins. Oh my god, there's so much to talk about. Okay, we can do it. So the insurrectionists self-identified as the Unenlightened, and they destroyed a Lithin transfer station, right? Yes, transfer hub. Lithin is a demonic gift, and the technocracy are destroying the world. They're not wrong, actually. Turns out they're right. The Heralds of the Unenlightened. I thought that was a fascinating title, because you know what that actually reminds me of? Are the Abyss Order Heralds. Because the Heralds and the... Oh god, what are the other guys called? The Lectors. The Lectors have a subtitle which is like exegesis or something, right? I remember having to look that word up. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. But it basically means one who studies the text, typically a holy text, and understands it well and can theoretically teach it to another if they so wished. That's kind of elaborating on the basic concept of the term, which is someone who is very knowledgeable. So the Heralds of the Unenlightened kind of reminds me actually of the Abyss Order, because you have the Abyss Order which stands against the gods and has their own beliefs and philosophies. And they use this term, which is very commonly apparently associated with religious study. So I love the design of that concept, and that's just what this made me think of, the Heralds of the Unenlightened. I wonder if the ruler of Sath is actually like an ally of humanity, I suppose you could say. Humanity in quotes until we talk about that more later. Because it seems like the ruler of Sath is trying to prevent war between the cities, which is the final plan of the powers that be here, that all the cities destroy each other. It's like the cycles of the world, you know? So interestingly, the ruler of Sath maybe is another rebellious figure in this whole story. Oh, Aqua's first introduction saying, this exhibition is really wonderful. It's been hard to tear myself away. Talking about the human technology that everyone knows will one day be used in war. I see why you are enjoying the exhibition, Aqua. Because I believe they do want the human, quote-unquote, civilizations to destroy each other. Now, this character is really interesting. The blind man. I feel like his whole existence is a metaphor. You know, with ignorance giving you the ability to see clearly. This man being blind, but apparently having handled the vats of ignorance before. He asks, did you see it? I wonder if this is, you know, it's definitely an allegory to do with ignorance and knowledge and seeing and not seeing. I almost wonder if this could be connected in some way to forbidden knowledge and how important it is in this world that humans don't even see that knowledge because we've seen the catastrophic effects of it. I don't think that's the point of the story, but it's an interesting greater umbrella theme to keep in mind, I think. The stench of formaldehyde, small note, very interesting to see specifically formaldehyde mentioned. That's indicative of a, you know, highly advanced, well, maybe not highly advanced, but definitely advanced chemical understanding. Used for preservation. Interesting. It's just, I'm always so intrigued when a very specific scientific word appears in a fantasy world. So yeah, the author of this, it makes sense that the characters in the story know what formaldehyde is, because they're in an advanced civilization, but the author of this, using the word formaldehyde, I mean, you could always say maybe there is a sci-fi culture in Teyvat. There's all these publishing houses, they're publishing books. One of those genres might be sci-fi, and someone made up the concept of formaldehyde, and everyone liked it, and so it gets used in sci-fi books. And then they just use the word formaldehyde so that we as players could recognize the concept as well without being introduced to that sci-fi culture in Teyvat. But I think it says something interesting about the author of this book, especially because we already have questions about who they really are. Formaldehyde. I mean, again, with Conria, if this is a person connected to Conria or from Conria in some way, we learned in the ruins of Dari that they literally had access to information from, I think specifically our world, or at the very least, other worlds. And that's how they were able to make certain scientific breakthroughs, because they were able to learn that information that had already been discovered elsewhere. So potentially, the concept of formaldehyde could have been learned from another world through a system like that. Moving on, our main character gets exposed to ignorance and then can see through Akra's disguise, or the fog, right, in their brain that obscured Akra. An apparition somewhere between a skeleton and a machine. And I'm presuming that they look like that, kind of. And I guess what this is, as we learn later, the previous civilization converted themselves into Lithin. Was it Lithin? Or into some bio-stable material and a hive mind. And so in order to make individuals, they had to build machines that then they could imbue with this material so it could be piloted, basically. So it's basically a living being piloting a machine because their body is no more, is my understanding of what Akra is. Now here's a question. Between Volume 2 and Volume 3, right here. Is that a time skip? Yeah, it's gotta be a time skip. So Akra takes our main character to a place, the chamber, right? The final chamber. And they see in a vat a reptilian body with a colossal head, slender limbs connected by countless threads, and they say that's a human right there? Really? So what this actually reminds me of is the V-Shops. Remember the V-Shop experiments in Enkonomiya? And the study of evolution, basically, that was happening there. What on earth? The last specimen of its kind in the world. Is this story just straight up from another world, telling the tale of another world? All the parallels here are literally just that, parallels to stories and civilizations in Teyvat. Or could be a lie. This is the precise moment where the definition of human in this story is just completely called into question. And I love that it comes before the part where it's like, oh yeah, humans are dogs. No, I'm kidding. So this body that they're describing reminds me of a V-Shop, but then also definitely not. Countless threads? Like, is the body half fallen apart, essentially? They're seeing the circulatory system and the nervous system holding parts of it together? Has it been stitched? Pieces from a human and pieces from another creature or multiple other creatures? What you're looking at is a human, is the last specimen of its kind in the world. So there used to be more humans. The monstrosity in front of you is gesturing to another creature floating in a nearby cultivation tank. Actually, wait. I wonder if this is perhaps a translation issue, but when it says the monstrosity is gesturing to another creature floating in a nearby tank, so it's a different creature other than the reptilian creature? Because it seems like... So, we don't know what the main character looks like, but we're not talking about them right now. We know what Akra looks like. He looks like a skeleton and a machine. The main character is looking at a colossal-headed, slender-limbed, reptilian-bodied being. And Akra is talking about another creature floating in a nearby cultivation tank. So the colossal head, slender limbs, reptilian body is not the human? But then the next paragraph is, even though you have become accustomed to your companion's visage, you do your best to look away. Which implies that we were looking at Akra to begin with, which would make Akra the reptilian-bodied person. But Akra's a robot. Kind of. So I'm wondering if it's just a translation thing with the another creature and a nearby cultivation tank throwing me off. Simple version is the human is the reptilian body. Complicated version is there's a reptilian body and there's a tank holding a human that is never described to us. So they could look exactly like a human. Anyways, moving on. If this is a human, then what are we? Actually, that's a fascinating statement. Because that means that our main character is self-identifying with Akra. They're not asking, what are you? They're asking, what are we? So now with the ignorance having been applied, is our main character seeing themselves as a being that looks just like Akra as well? We'll see, because we learn more about the unenlightened ones later. So it doesn't quite make sense. What are we? Maybe they're talking about themselves and the illusion that Akra had in front of them before now. Okay. So the church is connected to Natlantea. This is kind of implying that, yeah, so this is where it gets interesting. I mean, it was already interesting, but this is, I think what this is saying, by some means of unfathomable technology, the church is connected to Natlantea, implying that Akra is from Natlantea? Akra and everyone like them? Because what that would mean, if we extrapolate from that, is that if Natlantea is supposed to correspond to the sacred city of Tolan, then this basically becomes humans and dragons, is what we're talking about here. And this part here, they are creatures we designed. Their biological functions are in perfect contrast to our own. The environment in which we thrive is deathly toxic to them. This starts sounding very dragon-like. So, humans exist in a world that is fundamentally incompatible with what dragons used to be. That's why dragons changed and adapted and became saurians. The environment in which dragons thrive is deathly toxic to humans is quite possibly a very true statement. And then it is precisely because of this that the degradation they cause is vital to recreating a world suited to our existence. So, naturally, humans do tend to destroy the worlds that they occupy, collecting resources from them. This actually makes me think of Larua and the chasm and Azhdaha. Azhdaha eroded so quickly and so catastrophically because humans overmined and damaged the ley lines in those areas that sustained Azhdaha. If I remember my Zhongli Story Quest 2 correctly. So, basically what this book is saying is like, in this world, the world of the book, the dragons, potentially, designed humans with the intention of having them convert the world back into an environment that works for dragons. Except not humans, but humans, in quotes, if you know what I mean. And then we start getting to things like, the entire history of our civilization is the result of their planning. This starts harkening towards the cycles, Atlantea being one of them, and how, I mean, we're talking about this in Nocra even a little bit, a lot of fates, if not all fates, of humans in this world are pre-written. And then you have, like in Remuria, the symphony, the fate of the entire civilization is written, both comprised of a million little parts and one giant whole that moves as an existence itself. So, like this, it's connecting to so many world quests all at once because those are patterns we've seen repeated throughout Tevat. It's also connecting to Nartitzenkreuz even, into the story and trying to change the story. This book is basically positing an explanation for those cycles, or perhaps a direction of the end of those cycles. Destroy the world, by which it means it is no longer compatible for humans, but is perfect for somebody else. And the technology coming from this other civilization is very similar to Indeed and Natlan. A lot of the technology has been engineered based off of phlogiston engravings, which were passed down by dragons. The fog of reason. Now we're getting into the philosophy of it all, which, oh my god, like, did this thing start by mentioning reason? I wanted to check that. Yes! Since records began, there has never been an age as enlightened and reasoned as this. So again, it's like in Fontaine, and how the Narcissenkreuz Ordo tried for a time to break free from the cycles, or at least see beyond the cycles, see through them, see what was controlling them, by using different philosophy, you could say. So, reason and ignorance, like, how do you define those? They also mentioned later on something along the lines of, you haven't yet evolved out of your morals. Yeah, your senseless morals have yet to be overcome by evolution. So it's different perspectives affecting how you see the world on the most basic level. But then, specifically using these terms, using reason to obfuscate your view, that reminds me of the huge overarching question, which is, how much of Teyvat is real? Like, how much of it is just fake? The sky's fake? Is the whole world, like, designed? I think that's something we were talking about. I had some very early thoughts about that back in Mondstadt, when it felt like this whole world was a science experiment. Or perhaps a game, ha ha ha. But then also, naturally in Fontaine, with the Narcissenkreuz Ordo, and with the Melusines see the world differently, and experience it differently. So, this book, whoever the heck wrote this book, is basically hinting that, yeah, maybe this world is false. And that idea feels more credible now, just because someone else completely unassociated with us has come to the same conclusion, or a similar hypothesis, we should say. This also reminds me of something else I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, before Sun and Moon, the year of the Ark's opening. Didn't humans exist before the year of the Ark's opening? No, I don't think so. Potentially, though. I think it was the primordial one took over, and so the war went on for, I believe, 40 years. Should we go check? Should we go check? But, basically, it took a very long time for the primordial one to reshape the world as they wanted to with the help of the shades. And then at a certain point, it was recorded in that book, the year of the Ark's opening. And you guys have so helpfully informed me in the comments that Teyvat translates to the Ark. So things like that, little hints scattered here and there, really make this world feel false. On a level that's more than just the sky. How much of what we're perceiving is real? And maybe we are in a real world, but how much of this world was just completely artificially created? Things like that. And especially now that we're in Nodcry with the moons. I feel like the original moons were much larger than the fake one that we have now, which explains a lot. I also had, oh my god, wait, I had some thoughts since like the last episode or the episode before, when I was explaining how I was confused about the moon and what Malwika said about the moon that we saw behind the sky. Because when we first saw the sky crack open, to rehash my thoughts a little bit, when we first saw the sky crack open, we saw shards of a moon. I'm like, that's the real moon, right? That's gonna be the real moon and this is the fake moon. It all makes sense. But then Malwika said, that's ancient dragon technology. And I was #very confused. Because it looks like a moon, but it also does look kind of technological. So then where's the real moon? Is it the one that's actually in the sky? That one is real, but then we come to Nodcry, and Nodcry confirms that the moon in the sky currently is indeed fake. And I was so confused over this. Until it just clicked the other day. I woke up and this is the first thought I had. My brain was processing for me as I slept. Thank you, brain. We appreciate it. The moons are dragon tech. The original ones. I think it's one and the same. That's why those shards that we saw behind the sky looked like a moon, but were dragon technology. Because the moons were dragon technology. But do you know what that means? That would mean... Where is it? Where is it? Takoja Yanikuinen, the primeval blacksmith, O great father of Genesis, forger of the earth's bones and the tripled moons. That would make this being a dragon. And that brings to mind two thoughts. The first is that I think when we first read this, I said, hey, forger of the earth's bones. Or no, when we first read the readables in the Dragon Pillar about the prophecy of the sacred air that said that they would join with the world and the earth's bones or something. As soon as we read that, I said, hey, that phrasing sounds familiar. We have seen those exact words, the earth's bones, before. And you know where I think we saw them? I think we saw them in Natlan. Dragons. Yeah? Pieces are coming together. So, forger of the earth's bones and the tripled moons. So, I feel pretty confident in saying that the primeval blacksmith was probably a dragon, because the moons predated the primordial one, I very much believe, and at the very least were destroyed in war between descenders, right? And they're not involved with the false sky, and if the primordial one, that is Fanes, had created the moons, I think they would have put them in the false sky, not behind. Like, there would be 3 moons, and that, like, you know, it just makes more sense if the 3 moons were not part of the primordial one's designs for the world. So, 3 moons are predated. They were created by the great father of Genesis, forger of the earth's bones, and the tripled moons, the primeval blacksmith. So I'm very confident in saying that that's a dragon. But which one? Probably one of the dragon sovereigns, right? But I remembered something from the trailer. I'm straight up going to pull it up because I want to make sure I get this phrasing correct. There we go. So, the Song of the Welcome Moon teaser goes, the primordial being that once ruled this planet made 3 moons rise from the earth. So, well, that narrows it down, doesn't it? The primeval blacksmith, the dragon that created the moons, once ruled this planet. Would that make them Nibelung? The king of dragons? So that's my current understanding of that. And I love that it all clicked after I just realized, oh my god, that's why you can have a moon and you can have dragon technology, because the moon is dragon technology, ergo the moon was made by the dragon. And then the trailer said the primordial one being that once ruled this planet, that's only one guy. Okay. Ahem. Okay. Let's get back to our program at hand. Here we are. Okay. We're almost done here. We're talking about how this parallels basically dragons and humans with the extended idea that in this book, I don't know if this is real in Teyvat. I don't think it is, because of what we saw from the Little One World Quest. I think this is this author's interpretation of this, kind of positing an interesting question to their audience. But in the book version of history, the dragons specifically designed humans and their civilization's history, wrote the history that would happen, so that they would destroy the world from a human perspective, that is, remake it to be suitable to a dragon's perspective. Now, what that does kind of remind me of, again, being in Nodcry, is the records from Hyperborea, and how they were talking about, oh, when civilization is 2/3 recreated, or something like that. So Hyperborea has an expectation, or a standard for what civilization looks like, that they wanted to see recreated. That we don't currently have, I would assume. What else? Oh yeah, here we go. Lithin, the miraculous energy source discovered amongst the Atlantean ruins, is the energy-based form of these creatures. This is kind of like Kukulkan's plan, right? With the phlogistonization project. I feel like, again, this book is taking a hypothetical, saying, what if the phlogistonization project had indeed succeeded and proceeded, and all dragons were merged into a phlogiston-based life form, but at the same time, instead of turning the rest of the world into phlogiston as well, the world just descended into war. And so that's why the dragons then created humans, quote-unquote, to recreate the world for them. So that's why this situation feels more hypothetical than any real indication of what actually happened in Teyvat's history, because we know that the phlogistonization project did not operate, or did not end up being activated at that large of a scale. There were definitely some dragons phlogistonized. We saw them when we were doing that world quest, standing around and barely clinging to their memories. They were running out of energy. But there's definitely not a giant collection of dragons surviving as pure energy and piloting robots walking around. To my knowledge. We met one dragon walking around, but that was Kolkukan, and he was using his abilities to change his appearance, but I don't believe he was possessing an animatronic, basically. So that's why this situation feels like a hypothetical based off of some very secret information. How on earth did the author even learn about any of this? Just some random human that Kukulkan decided to confide in at some point? You know, maybe hundreds of years down the line when he started to have stronger and stronger doubts about his plan? That seems unlikely. But I'm just so amazed that this author has so much information. Maybe they divined it in a way, like a visionary or something. But yeah, so psychohistory reminds me of, you know, the Primordial One and the Shades writing Fates, or the Three Moons potentially having a hand in writing Fate, or, you know, the cycles of the world that we're going through. So again, a major theme there that they touched on. The Unenlightened being the name of the rebellious group, essentially. I wonder if this has anything to do with Gnosticism. You know, going back to how interesting it is that reason obfuscates the truth, and ignorance allows you to see clearly. And then here with the Unenlightened being their name. Because we know that this world uses a lot of Gnosticism in its philosophy, right? Because of literally the Archons and the Gnosis. Now, I haven't taken the time to study Gnosticism yet. I'm kind of wanting to experience the story as it's presented first. And then maybe somewhere down the line, once I've caught up, or even past then, like the story concludes, and I want to go back through and learn more things for greater depth of understanding. I don't know. At some point, I do intend to read up on Gnosticism. But so far, I haven't. I wonder if this sort of naming convention maybe ties back to the philosophy of Gnosticism. Because of just those names. The Unenlightened. The Ignorance. Very interesting. Anyhow, a select number of the civilization decided not to go into the Lithin. They became the Unenlightened. So the main character here is potentially, in the context of the story, a dragon. But this bottom part gets very interesting. You have witnessed the countless memories of sages who established the codes of law, of poets who extolled the graces of virtue, and of warriors who fought against the oppression of tyrants. Through incarnation after incarnation. What that actually reminded me of was the dragon sovereigns. Because from Nivelette, we know that if they die, theoretically they should come back. Now, I'm wondering if there's some criteria that needs to be met for them to come back. Maybe this is only specific to certain sovereigns, like, you know, the dragon sovereign of water being very tied to the primordial source of life being primordial water. But then again, isn't the dragon primordial source of life fire, not water? So why would Nivelette be the only dragon that reincarnates when nobody else does? That part of the story is a little unclear to me, and the reason it's unclear is because our three examples that we know are Apep, who is still alive and well, never died as far as I know, Nivelette, who has died at least twice, I believe, and been reincarnated, and the Pyro Dragon Sovereign, who did die and has not reappeared. So, why not? Are the Shades and the Primordial One deliberately stopping them via the heavenly principles that they've established? Is the Abyss blocking them? Do they just not have enough energy to reform now that the Shades and the Primordial One have control over the authorities and have divided the energy into 7 elements? So, that's a big question mark. But this concept of this dragon figure in this story living out incarnation after incarnation and walking among the quote-unquote humans is very similar to Nivelette's story. But then, third paragraph in the end, at the start of each memory, you see a huge figure cast its shadow over those who were exiled from the ancient city. Now, the exiles, that's the first time they've used that word in the story, I believe, so I'm going to assume they mean the unenlightened, but they might not. Could be other exiles. The figure seems to speak, but you can no longer recall the words. All you remember is that you yearn for him. So a huge person, a huge entity. I think they mean that kind of might be more metaphorical than literal, though it might be literal as well. My first guess for who this would be Nibelung, the Dragon King. Because if these memories are memories from the equivalent of dragon civilization, then that larger-than-life person is probably the leader, or someone who had a lot of influence, at the very least. So if you want to get Natlantea, or Natland specific, it could be Xiacoatl. But I feel like it's more likely that it is Nibelung. What's interesting about that, then, is all you remember is that you yearn for him. That reminds me of... where was that? That story. You know the one I'm talking about, right? I can't find it, but the story of the Voyager who came from beyond the stars, and I forget if it was... oh, it's an artifact set, isn't it? It's Skirk's artifact set, that's what it is. But they came from beyond the stars, and I forget if it was precisely that they fell in love with Nibelung, or at the very least, they cared greatly for him and incarnated into this world to meet him again, right? Something along those lines. They tried to find him. All you remember is that you yearn for him. So if this is Nibelung, and this person is yearning for him, that's why I was thinking of the Voyager. On the other hand, in the context of the story, it makes more sense for this leader of the unenlightened to be more of a Neuvillette-like figure, because these last two sentences, you know, everyone eventually returns to give their answer. What would your answer be? The answer, or the question being, I believe it's kind of implied, do you want to join us now? Is it worth it to continue living among the humans? What is the point of all this? What should we do? Feels like a very Neuvillette experience, because he decided that the punishment of, you know, killing all humans for the sin of wanting to live is too extreme. To simplify the situation that is in Fontaine, because Fontaine is like a micro example of a larger plot that's probably going to kick in later. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. 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 On the other hand, this being could very much just yearn for Nibelung, due to his presence in their life. You know, he could have been a fantastic leader that they really looked up to. They could want the stability and certainty that he represents. They could have been good friends, who knows. Wow. Okay, well that was super cool. I'm glad we finally took the time to read that. That is epic. Okay, let's go find our next one. It should be right around here. Here you are. A Brief History of the Pale Starborn. Oh my god, it's so short. This is the whole thing? Wow. This will be our second and final book for today. And then I have one last thing to check on that I want to talk about with you guys. So, first of all, our description. A book on Fae history! Based on certain details within, it's believed to have been written by Fae elders. Oh, I'm so excited. This is perfect. I wanted to know more about the Fae. I was hoping that this book would sort of transition us back into thinking about Nodcry, and I bet it will. Beautiful. Let's get into it. Volume 1. In the third year of the 428th cycle, that is, the 76th year after Emperor Monomakh Snezhny raised the imperial capital, 127, upon the frozen earth, the emperor dispatched envoys onto the fiefs of the villa, and said unto them, "To whom do you offer tribute?" Off to a fantastic start. Oh my god. The third year of the cycle. So the question is, when did cycle 0 happen, or cycle 1 happen? What was the starting event of these cycles? and what defines these cycles. The major cycles of the world, we've only had 3.5, right? Was it Hyperborea, Natlantea, Remuria, Karin, Ara? And we're halfway through the last one? I might have flipped Natlantea and Hyperborea, but I don't think those are the cycles we're talking about, because 428? That's a lot. So, these cycles, they're not years, because each cycle has at least 3 years in it. And 76th year after the Emperor raised the imperial capital. And then, is that a footnote? Is that a footnote? Ah, it is! Kitej was the first city in all of Snezhnaya. This imperial capital was built after the custom of the Fae ancestors, remaining the center of power over the frozen lands from the 4th year of the 417th cycle, that is, the year of its founding, until His Majesty the Emperor, in his boundless mercy and grace, pardoned humanity, and gave them membership in his realm, moving his seat to Snezhnogrod. Okay. Okay. So the emperors at this time all being Fae. Beli Tsar era. So let's read this. Let's keep going. To whom do you offer tribute? They answered, unto King Mstislav. 128. And the imperial emissary said unto them, do so no longer, for they demand unlovely tribute. 129. And the villa did cease their tithings. So the king, 128, Mstislav, known in the Volkov Chronicles as the Blood Devourer. Oh! I would not want to be tithing to that guy, or maybe I would be, so he didn't devour my blood. Goodness gracious. The great ruler of all Volkodolak, the wise blood drinker, the master of the Mstislavi Alliance. Mstislavli Alliance? According to the Volkodolak, under his command, King Mstislav was a hulking figure, standing out even upon great battlefields like a mighty mountain. As such, he was also known by Fae chronicles as Gorinishe, or Son of the Mountain. That looks surprisingly similar to some abyssal names we've seen. But I think in this case it's just coincidence. Get the notes out just to double check. Oh, Gosorthoth from Natlan is who I'm thinking of. Yeah, in this case I really think it's just a coincidence though. Chernobog, definitely not. And the guy, Rotwang. Definitely not. Right. Okay, moving on. The next one is, they demand unlovely tribute. So 129. The term lovely, as pointed out in the theory of Fae language, can also be translated in our modern context as beneficial, lovable, or endearing. It should be evident that these words meant rather similar things in those days. The meaning of the Emperor's envoy's words, therefore, should be understood to mean, their demand for tributes from you is undesirable, or perhaps unbeneficial to you. Some scholars have as such interpreted the envoy's words as a veiled threat. For more relevant information, as well as the precise semantic scope of this term, please refer to the discussion found within the theory of Fae language. I wish we could get the theory of Fae language. I don't think it's over here. I would love to read the theory of Fae language. Oh god! Oh no! I accidentally moved my book. I didn't mean to do that. Here we are. Okay. I need to read more. Okay. So the villa did seize their tithings. The 4th year of the 428th cycle, the 5th year of the 428th cycle, in the 6th year of the 428th cycle, King Mstislav spoke to his people, his kin, and his confederates, accusing the Pale Star Court, the Pale Star Edict, the Pale Star Born, oh my god, of breaking the standing peace agreement. I wonder what the Pale Star is. Which star is it? I don't even want to try to make a guess based off of our stars. Because first of all, Tevat's a different world. Secondly, stars and Tevats are fake. Pale Star. Accusing the Pale Star Court of breaking the standing peace agreement. He demanded that the Emperor pay tribute for 10 years, the grain of 600 granaries and gold to fill 30 storehouses, and sufficient slaves to transport such bounty. This was 30 times the amount that had been demanded of the villa. The Emperor rejected this ultimatum, and both sides prepared for war, 130 thereafter. The Emperor said, "To sacrifice ourselves for the homeland is honorable. Let our comrades in this be our swords and our love. Our enemies proclaim peace, for they wish to stir up war. Should we shamefully give in to them, meaning the Volkodlak, our sons and daughters shall face war greater still. Thus, let us fight bravely for our survival. Let us taste the honeyed wine of victory, or let us make of ourselves a glorious oblation." Oh, dang. Because of, the blood drinking, right? 130 it was. 130 I'm looking for next. Even to the eye of later generations, Mskislavli, the realm established by the wise amongst the Volkodlak, was entirely preposterous in its accusations against the Pale Star's royal court. But the accusations were not wholly unreasoned. Or rather, King Mskislav, king of the Volkodlak, whose kingdom bore his name, sought to provoke war for a truer purpose. That is, his fear of the Pale Star court's rise since the previous conflict. Under Emperor Monomakh, the alliance centered around Kitezhgrad developed an entirely new character over the course of the century. It rapidly advanced both in economy and governmental structure. To allow Emperor Monomakh to gain the upper hand in this tug of war was anathema to King Mskislav. Thus began the war that would ultimately shape the destiny of this continent shrouded in silver snow. Okay, let's keep these names straight. So, Monomakh raised the imperial capital, and it was moved because Monomakh was the guy who allowed or pardoned humanity and gave them membership in his realm, moving his seat to Snezhgrad. So it was in Kitezhgrad. Interesting. Developed over the course of a century. And then he moved to Snezhgrad, and then Mskislav declared war? The Emperor dispatched envoys. Okay. So the Pale Star Court is the one that allows humans. Okay. Where were we? Oblation. There we were. In the 7th year of the 428th cycle, King Mskislav launched an assault upon Kitezh at the head of a great host. The Mskislavli clans marched with him, as did the people of Nihomgarthir? Ooh, that looks Norse. Dalegrad, Sirnareka, and their numerous servants. 3 times the armies clashed at Kitezh, in the foothills, at the frozen lake, and on the plains. The Emperor slew King Mskislav and many princes who followed him. Grand Duke Seriviki was fortunate to escape with his life, but both Grand Dukes Skoldiurit and Voidianoi were pierced by the Emperor's spear and slain. In his mercy and love, the Emperor sought their bodies out and had them returned to their clans for burial. The Emperor said thus: "They were not kings, nor born of sacred blood. Never were they meant for rulership. Yet, heir to the Pale Star, and protector of all Fae am I." Thus did the remaining clans of the Fae seek an audience with him, and thus did he gain authority to govern them. From that day forth, he named himself the Veli Tsar. Yeah. So, through war, the Fae clans were unified. Okay. Lots of names here to look up. So 131. Oh. Okay. We can do these two together. The Nihomgathir were Volkodlak of bovine aspect. The Daleguard were a clan of water imps. The Sirnareka were Volkodlak with wolf-like appearances. Volkodlak. So they're all Fae, right? Volkodlak, I believe, is a regional term, basically. The Fae of the region Volkold would be my guess. Where do we first see it? Down here. Nope. Up here. No, it would have been in a footnote. This is so entertaining. I have to keep moving around. Yeah, there it is. The Volkov Chronicles. The great ruler of all Volkodlak. So, but the alliance is called the Mskislavli Alliance. So the Volkoldalak is not the name of the network or the civilization or the alliance, it's the name of the people. So I think it's a regional term for the Fae living in this area. It might be a cultural term as well. Volkov Chronicles. That could be regional. Anyways. So Volkoldalak meaning Fae of this area, right? You were Fae, right? Mstislav? Let's see. The Blood Devourer. Yes. He was also known by Fae Chronicles as Gornishe, or Son of the Mountain. So, Fae Chronicles could be Fae who were doing chronicling, or Fae and or people who were chronicling the Fae. I'm gonna assume they're all Fae. Of bovine aspect, water imps, and wolf-like appearances. Okay, back on track. What's 143? Sorry, 134. And their numerous servants, which were primarily military retainers. Then the emperor slew King Mstislav, and that's 135. That's gonna be a big one. King Mstislav took personal command in these 3 large-scale battles against the emperor. Legend has it that, driven by despair in that final battle, he sought to use the power of the Shadow Realm. To the Shadow Realm with the E. To delay the advance of the Pale Star Court's forces. Shadow Realm in this, I assume, means Abyss. Though this measure failed to turn the tide, it did have an impact on the Emperor's future decisions. Please refer to A History of the Snezhny Expedition for detailed records of said 3 battles. It is worth noting that out on the flank, the Shepekin Legion had received orders from King Mstislav to pursue and to prevent Imperial forces from uniting. Yet they were mysteriously misled by the icy fog that day. Misjudging their route of advance, they missed their opportunity to strike and could not prevent the Imperial forces from linking up. This ultimately caused the defeat of Mstislav's forces in a head-on clash. This incident has been recorded by a great many historians, but the cause of the sudden shift in the weather remains unknown. King Mstislav was eventually slain when the Emperor's spear pierced through his head. It is said that the bear-shaped skull, large as a chariot, now housed in the Zapolyarny Palace treasury, still bears the marks left by that spear. That's the Fatui place, the Zapolyarny Palace. Or no, that's not even the Fatui place, that's the Tsaritsa's seat of power, right? Aha. Suppose that makes sense. But then the icy fog sounds a lot like the Wild Hunt does it, doesn't it? Why would it pop up at that time? Did somebody invoke it? Or was it just sheer coincidence? You know, you have all these battling powers in Nodcry. Maybe it just so happens that the Abyss popped up at that time. Maybe they sensed a lot of Fae on the surface and thought it was a great opportunity to take out some of them. I don't know. Icy fog. Could be potentially not even the Wild Hunt. Somebody who could manipulate ice? Anything else? No. That was 135. Grand Duke Seriviki, both Grand Dukes Skoldirit and Vodyanoi. So that's 3, 6, 7, and 8. Seriviki, the Grey Wolf, so the Volkov Chronicles record. Ruler of Sirnarenka, a cunning wolf, known for his agility, said to have engaged in clandestine dealings early in the war with Porphyry, the minister then in charge of the Pale Star's finances. Following the fall of King Mstislav's rule, he was the sole Fae Grand Duke to slip immediately and effortlessly into the ranks of the ministers in the Pale Star's royal court. I like this, kind of confirming for me that the Volkov people were Fae. Hooray! I just like having pretty concrete confirmation. You know how I roll. As such, some scholars believe that the failure of the Shepekin Legion under his command to pursue battle at a critical moment was no mere accident, though this hypothesis cannot be considered supported by sufficient evidence. After the war, he was honored by Emperor Monomakh, then already known as the Bellied Tsar, with a ceremonial tap of the longsword on his shoulder. So he might have been bribed. Potentially. 137. Skoldirit, known as the Deepwood Bull in the Volkov Chronicles, Grand Duke of Nihulmgathir, under Mstislav's command. During the second campaign, he proposed leading an elite vanguard to circle around to the rear of the Pale Star Court's forces. He planned to launch a surprise attack. and force them into an ambush zone, while the main army would encircle said zone and strike. However, intelligence regarding this strategy was seized by a Fae who had infiltrated King Mskislav's army. Filipov, loyal to His Majesty the Emperor and most skilled in transformation techniques. The Emperor adjusted his plans accordingly. Grand Duke Skuldirit's surprise attack ironically led him to become deeply encircled by the Pale Star's royal army. The Pale Star forces entrapped his, all while destroying any arriving relief columns, causing King Mskislav's forces to suffer a catastrophic defeat in the second battle. The Grand Duke was then slain in this battle when His Majesty the Emperor's spear pierced his chest. 138. Vodianoi, given the appellation the Lackland by the Volkov Chronicles. Ruler of Dalegrad, forebear of all waterborn in the frozen lake. A warrior of unparalleled valor, yet a brute like no other, skilled in launching surprise attacks from beneath the ice. Towards the end of the second campaign, the Grand Duke of the Domovoi, Alvis, lured his legions beyond the frozen lake through cunning strategy. Killed when the Emperor's spear pierced his chest. Poor Vodanoy, having the shortest little paragraph. Some thoughts from this. It's around this point that I'm really thinking about how history is written by the victors. On one hand, Mskislav's name was the Blood Drinker or something. Typically, not a name given to someone much beloved by their people, one would presume. But I do wonder, these stories are just showing their battle tactics and how they were defeated. I wonder why they were loyal to Mskislav. Was it just the standard, if we win, I will be rewarded? Was it a little bit of fear? Or did they disagree with what Mono, the Emperor, what was his name? Monomak wanted to do? But then again, we know that Monomak would pardon humanity, so maybe they weren't the most friendly of people either, these dukes, basically. Besides that, 136, Seriviki, the Grey Wolf. This is actually making me think of? I think, because we're in here with all these books and I've been scrolling up and down them all day, there's a surprising number of early books that have wolves in them as characters, and often characters that can speak. Now, wolves, I feel like, are a very common fairy tale folklore character, at least, in regions that have wolves. So with a lot of those early books coming from, for instance, Mondstadt with Wolvingdom, I kind of wonder if the wolves in Mondstadt are in any way connected to the wolves of the Fae. Because if you think of Andreas, he's an ice and animal wolf. Did he come down from the north? I almost wonder. That could explain why there's wolves in Mondstadt. And the intelligence of the wolves in Mondstadt stories is because maybe they used to be descendants of wolf fae. And they were insentient to an extent. That would be interesting. Man, now I want to reread all the wolf books. I swear there's something in, like, War Princess as well with wolves and the cold, right? Okay. Back up, we looked at 137, 8, and... Okay. We're almost done! 139, Emperor's Spear. And let's see, 140 is Sacred Blood. Okay. So, Emperor's Spear. The Emperor's Spear. Those unfamiliar with the battlefield often question many descriptions in the battle accounts, including the records of him wielding it to slay the enemy commanders as the two armies fought it out. Most skeptics typically argue that, given the size of the armies and the commanders' positions within their formations, it would have been almost impossible for the commanders to engage in direct combat amidst the chaotic melee. The following must be clarified. The Emperor's feat of piercing the enemy commanders with his spear did not occur as the result of a direct engagement. Rather, the spear was used as an arrow, launched with force unimaginable by common knowledge, piercing through the battlefield. You know what that reminds me of? The arrow from Hyperborea that was lent to the Lightkeepers. And you know what that reminds me of? A realization I had. So I have since edited the video with Lady Isla and all those readables. And that one readable where the founder of the Lightkeepers said that he would name them after the flame that Isla ignited, right? And I thought, oh my god, is he the guy? Is he the guy from the artifact set? The torch lighter? The lamp lighter? The first lightkeeper, basically? Actually, I wonder if that was Isla. I'll have to go back to that artifact set and review it, which I do not have. I don't have that entire artifact set, so I can't do it in the game. But I'm wondering if maybe the lantern keeper, the first light keeper, basically, the one who raised the light against the abyss to begin with, might have been Isla. And then the other guy founded the light keepers, but named them after her in recognition of how she was the first to do it. I wonder. I'll have to reread the artifact set, as mentioned, to see if that works with what we learn in that artifact set. But I thought that would be really cool if that is indeed what was going on there. Small note, moving on from it. But yeah, so the spear used as an arrow reminds me of the spear. Reminds me of the spear from Hyperborea. Also reminds me of Child. Because he's the type to use arrows as spears, perhaps? I don't know. But, you know, in his basic attack sequence, he just throws the last arrow. Reminds me of that. Alright, number 140. A sacred bloodline, the meaning of which is unknown. Emperor Monomaque laid claim to the title Lord of all Fae, and as such, he should have been of the same blood as the other fairies. It would seem that he merely used phrases as a means to establish legitimacy. No, be careful. Careful making an assumption like that. They were not kings nor born of sacred blood. And then he calls himself heir to the Pale Star. So, the Pale Star Born is the name of this book. One starts to wonder about the origin of all Fae. Oh my god, wait! You know the Voyager who incarnated into this world and then we lost historical track of them? What if the Voyager had children? They came from beyond the stars. Potentially the Fae could be descended from the Voyager? Or at least maybe this line of Fae is? The Voyager could have had children with a Fae. And so this line of Fae is heir to the Pale Star and has a sacred bloodline. Or, on the other hand, I could be completely off, and there could be nothing particularly different about them. If they had connections to the Frostmoon Scion, I would almost think it was sort of like a positional title. You know, they became the heir to the Pale Star, and their blood was deemed sacred because they achieved a certain position and status, rather than anything actually genetic. I don't know. Okay, last but not least. The first year of the 799th cycle! In the 4th month of this year, Anastasia Feodorovna was crowned Tsaritsa of all Snezhnaya. Yes? Was this 500 years ago? Or 3,700 approximately? Who's this? Many of the Fae princes did not come onto Snezhnograd to seek an audience with her. The Dalegrad clan broke ties with Snezhnograd, for Emperor Monomaque had passed away. In the 2nd year of the 799th cycle, the humans of Port Belovedai, taking advantage of Emperor Monomaque's demise, declared self-governance in the winter, rebelling against the Fae princes. Grand Duke de Rovgore launched an assault against them, but failed to secure victory. We have kind of heard about this, right? Because the Fae court is no longer in command of Snezhnaya. From what I understand, the Tsaritsa is human. Or, well, she's an Archon. Was she human originally? What do we know about her? But, from what I understand, the court of Snezhnaya is mostly human. And there are some Fae who are still associated. But the Belly Tsar's court is no more. I think we actually saw a little bit of that turnover in Long Night's Oath. Anyhow. In the 2nd year of the 799th cycle, the humans of Port Belovedai... Oh wait, I already read that one. Ha ha ha. Alrighty. In the 3rd year of the 799th cycle, Tsaritsa Anastasia deployed troops to attack the forces of the independent government, occupying the territory of the Drevogorai, Volkovan, and Sinareka clans along the way. Charging them with negligence and condoning rebellion, their princely titles as rulers of these territories were revoked, their positions taken over by non-hereditary officials. Unlike Emperor Monomaque, she did not muster the Druzhna, but rather established a force known as the Fatui! It was they who conquered the lands of the Fae princes. Grand Duke Drevogorai accused the Tsaritsa herself of treason and met the Fatui with his own forces. And there he perished. On the 10th day of the 3rd month, the Tsaritsa dispatched envoys to Port Belovedai. They calmed the separatist forces and requested that they hand over the instigators of the rebellion, promising amnesty to all others. The request was accepted, and thus did the port escape being leveled. On the 23rd day of that same month, she then sent emissaries to all the Fey princes who had not yet come to seek an audience with her. She demanded they hand over all their authority, promising that they would retain their honorary titles as aristocracy. Many would pass on before they could make their replies, and those who remained acceded. Thus did Tsaritsa Anastasia take control of the north. Yeah, so this is the consolidation of power out of the hands of Fey officials, turning their titles into honorary titles, as mentioned, and rearranging power in Shnoshnaya so that it's not in Fey forces, but human-based ones that are enlisted rather than hereditary. And that will centralize a lot of power on the Tsaritsa's position as one of the... Actually, how is the Tsar title passed down, I wonder? In the 4th year of the 799th cycle, the Tsaritsa bade the Fatui build a new fortress near Shnoshnograd. Ah, there it is! Look at that! We're doing so good! We're almost done! Its name would be Glupov, meaning the City of Fools. Oh, the City of Fools? That's gonna be the headquarters of the Fatui, I bet. The 5th year of the 799th cycle. In the 6th year of the 799th cycle, the Tsaritsa established the Shnoshnograd Vesh to handle the administrative issues caused by the absence of the various princes. The human, Iona Ivanovna, was appointed its first chairperson. In the 7th year of the 799th cycle, the Imperial Order Reformation Edict was published. A great many princely Fae, deeply grateful for the Tsaritsa's mercy and virtue, voluntarily forsook their notable titles and departed Shnoshnaya. Yeah. So, in the end, let's see, when was this? Oh, this was still the 799th cycle. Huh. I kind of expected there to be a lot more time between this paragraph and the bottom paragraph, but okay. She, in the end, retired the titles completely. And I think this is where we are now. It feels like there's very few Fae left, and there's even fewer Fae left in positions of authority. I feel like a lot of the ones who do have some form of authority have it because they work for the Fatui. We saw the research papers, for instance. Wow, okay, so the question is, Tsaritsa Anastasia, are you... Man, throughout this whole thing, I never found anything that could relate a cycle to a common calendar date. So, like, this could have been 500 years ago. This could have been 10,000 years ago. I have no idea. I feel like if this Tsaritsa is going to be one of the major Tsaritsas that are still relevant to our personal journey today, then I'm guessing it would be the one who died during the Cataclysm or somehow perished around that time. Because we know that Tsaritsa in Shnoshnaya is not the one that won the Archon War in the area. Only Zhongli and Venturi are from that era, right? Everyone else has changed over for one reason or another. And this, of course, is of particular interest to us because the Tsaritsa is one of our major persons of interest. And understanding her experience of the Cataclysm and her experience of that loss and who the previous Cryo Archon was to her, I feel is just something I personally want to know, but I also feel is going to be important to the story, right? So, there's also the question of the Archonly parallels. You know, there's usually someone who looks visually similar, if not identical, to the current Archon involved with the whole process. So, Venti's bard friend, A's sister, Nahida's former version of herself, kind of. Farina and Focalor, Malwika and Malwika again, hahaha. Zhongli! I love him so much. The big question mark of it all. But, with that pattern being established, do we think that Tsaritsa will break it again? I feel like Zhongli has a reason that he's broken it, and we don't know that reason yet, and I'm very excited. I'm hoping that they'll one day tell us. I feel like it's more likely that the Tsaritsa will follow that pattern. And so it's quite possible that the previous ruler of Shenshinaya was also a Tsaritsa. And maybe is the person that she lost. I'm wondering, they try to vary it with every region. And I could see the previous Tsaritsa. I feel like the two biggest guesses, second most likely, is the current Tsaritsa's daughter. Maybe she lost a child. I don't think a parent, because I think that would be too close to Nihida's story. I don't think sister, because that'd be too close to A's and kind of Farina's. I think the most likely option is it was her lover, or at least someone she was in love with. Because she's very much associated with love, right? That Tsaritsa is, the current one. And so it would be fascinating to see what the connection is between the current Cryo Archon and the previous Cryo Archon, and how they incorporate love into that connection, if they decide to do so. I think it would make sense. Because she's... I think they even talk about this in the Travail trailer, right? She has no love left for her people, or something like that. So it really sounds like she is utterly brokenhearted. Anyways, there we go. We did it! We read the 2 books. I'm so happy. This... Oh god, you're also from Not Cry. Okay, well, I guess that'll be my next priority whenever we get to it. Actually, that could be a really fun idea. Maybe in between the Archon Quest acts, I could do some reading. Among other things, of course, but that could be a good little breakpoint for us. Okay. Wow, we can finally leave that screen. Welcome back to daylight, everybody. Look at the grass. It's so beautiful. Alrighty, well, that's all of our books read. There was one last thing I wanted to do before we finished up, and I think it'll be really fun, and I think it'll be really connected to Nod Cry. And I thought you guys might enjoy if we did this together on video rather than me doing it by myself. And that is a small detail, but one that I will appreciate. I'm gonna go check someone's name. Why don't you come along with me? Alright, here we go. Welcome to YouTube, everybody. Here's the Song of the Welcome Moon teaser that I just looked up earlier for purposes of checking this scene right here. Oh yeah, I should probably show you guys.
The primordial
There we go.
being that once ruled this planet made 3 moons rise from the earth.
So there's that, right? That's what I was talking about earlier with my theories about who the dragon is that made the moons is. I said is twice, don't worry about it. So I've actually had a couple other thoughts about this trailer since we watched it way back when. And one of those thoughts is actually about this person. I realized something that goes into our purpose for being here today. Basically, long story short, there is a narrator for this video. We hear them talking right now. Right?
Rise from
There it
the
is.
earth.
And when this person is introduced, I think it's Varka and Nefer are talking, and she says,
It's just a greater storyteller than myself has come.
right? And then we see her,
Now, beyond the moonlight's
and the
reach,
narration
an
continues.
ancient shadow brandishes its hunting claws.
And so, normally, whenever somebody's on the screen, they're talking. Normally, it's only when people are off screen that the narrator is talking. But when she's on screen, the narrator keeps going. Do you see where I'm going with this? I think she's the narrator. So that was just a small realization that I had a couple weeks ago, and I had no idea how to put that in a video, so we're doing it now. Yeah, I think she's the narrator of this video, but who is she? You guys have helpfully told me that it's in the description. So, we're going to look at the description. Small disclaimer. Whenever I open a video about Genshin, I always immediately go into theater mode, because otherwise the things over here can be spoilery. So, I wonder if I could, cover them somehow. I'm just gonna get a piece of paper. There we go. We love having objects in real life. I'm just covering half my screen. You guys can look, it's probably safe for you, but I'm not gonna look at those. So, scrolling down. There it is. Well, there it is, right? Right there, right? That's gotta be her, right? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It's so funny, it's like a cast list. They don't even have the voice actors. I thought it would be credits. It's a cast list. So, I know we know Varka, Yehoda, and Nafet Durin. Process of elimination, make sure it's nobody else. Flynn's full name. Moonman Columbina. Interesting that she gets a little title. Anyhow, Alice of the Hexen Circle, codename A, Albedo, and Wanderer. And then they helpfully give us Cendrone's full title as well. Nicole of the Hexen Circle, codename N. And we have a last... Do we have her... Darn it. I'm using my notes to block the screen. I can't check my notes right now. What? We didn't have her last name before, did we? Also, wow, so rare for a character to have a last name. Nicole Reen. Reen? I almost wonder if it's an inherited title or something. Wow, my voice sounds so different with this thing in front of my face. I almost wonder if it's an inherited title. Why does she have a last name? Oh wait, I should probably read the description too. She scatters dewdrops upon every bloom and tints the twilight with a sheen of silver. Thus do shadows howl across the gloomy woods as flocks of deer and birds take fright and shiver. She hums one nameless tune while walking those solitary halls, so her homeland may not fall to desolation, so the tale may not be lost to oblivion. I think that's about Columbina. Almost certainly, right? Tints the twilight with a sheen of silver, I think that's moonlight. This is probably talking about the wild hunt, the birds and the beasts, of course, the song that she sings, so on and so forth. Nicole, so that's Nicole. What do we know about Nicole? She's the one who spoke in our head, right? After Inversion of Genesis. Oh, I have to look my notes. Okay, let's see. Hexen Circle. No, where is it? Here it is. Okay, Nicole. Guide who will never get lost. She has made this world's direction and order her subject of study. Like a prophetess, she will only speak to guide people toward the truth when a change has occurred in the world. Inversion of Genesis voice. She has a tendency to speak into your mind without warning, especially if you've, quote, run into a truly dangerous situation. So that tracks with, her being the narrator, but when she's on the screen, her mouth doesn't move.
Claws, taking aim at the stars.
She's speaking mentally, I believe, is what's going on there. And then, of course, I had, oh my god, I had my whole question about, is she an angel? So we know she's a Hexen Circle member. So that makes her a witch, or a mage, at least, right? And is she an angel? I feel like that's still possible. The Hexen Circle is full of very interesting characters. I feel like she could still be an angel. She's gonna get up there with Ryan Daughter as a character who is somehow everywhere all at once. She's a visionary. She's in the Hexen Circle. And she's an angel. Now, a visionary and an angel. Are those two compatible? We've seen a couple different visionaries, but... Wait, she's not the visionary. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. The visionary is Barbaloth, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Nicole can speak into your mind, which implies that she can see across the world, basically. Like, she doesn't need to be near you to speak with you, and she somehow knows what you're doing without being there. But she's not necessarily a visionary. Okay. So maybe not a visionary at all. She spoke to us after Inversion of Genesis. I think she also spoke to us during Fontaine, right? In the Fleuve Cendre? And there was the teacup? I need to go watch that scene. I want to put notes from that into my notes. I don't have notes from that one. Okay. So that's Nicole. That's who it is. Oh, yeah, and I was going to say, one thing I have done is the Waves Meet the Reef event. And so, at the very end of that, I did not interact with them, but an anecdote popped up that was Alice next to this character. And at the time, I was like, oh my god, so is she the friend?
And I'd like to catch up with an old friend first.
That would make so much sense. That would make so much sense because of the Hexen Circle. It's all coming together. So, that's Nicole. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to come over here and get her name. And now that we have her name, the pieces are all aligning. Oh my god. Okay. I think that's everything. Is that... So, Alice, what are you doing in Nodcraft? Oh, no, there was one more thing. Nicole mentions an ancient shadow brandishes its hunting claws. And I've been thinking about this because we watched this before we hit Nodcry, so I've been keeping an eye out for it the whole time. And I have my first guess as to who it's going to be. My first two guesses, actually. The first guess would be Chernobog, right? God of Darkness, Belitzar's expedition fought them. The valiant warriors of Kitej fought the hounds of this god. And, oh, wait, that's really interesting with the context. Let's go back to Genshin. No, I don't have my book. Well, let's go back to Genshin. I don't have the books open anymore, but still. Okay, yeah. So, that is interesting, because we saw Kitej mentioned in the books we were just reading. And it was mentioned that when the Belitzar's forces fought Chernobog, it was to wash away our Lord's dishonor. What was his dishonor? With the additional information that we just got, I still don't know. Because it seems like he did what he set out to do. Do you think the dishonor is simply that he was sorrowful over the fact that he had fought and killed fellow Fae? Even if he did it for... Presumably, we don't know. But it seems like his ideal civilization was one where various life forms could live together, potentially. He welcomed humans, is where that idea comes from. So, maybe he wanted to have a peaceful civilization and fought for that ideal, but still felt sorrow that he had killed his kin, and that was his dishonor? That's just my guess based off the limited information we now have on him from that book, The History of the Pale Starborn. It could be some entirely different event, like, maybe there was something he was supposed to do that he failed to do, maybe something to do with the Abyss, an item that he had that he lost, so on and so forth. Anyhow, Chernobog seems like the most reasonable guess. It would parallel what happened in Natlan, but maybe almost a bit too much. My secondary guess is therefore Rotwang, because we saw in the readables in the Dragon Tower that he is expected, right? I think so. Is expected to return from the powers of the Abyss. Now here's the idea. Do we suppose Rotwang was in fact... Oh, wait. Do we think that he was actually... What's his name? What is this guy's name? The big antagonist we just met last time. Spooky guy. Rerir! Do we suppose Rotwang was actually Rerir in disguise? Because that could be how we get both. Chernobog might be the great evil, or what did Nicole say? Nicole! An ancient shadow. So, Chernobog could be the ancient shadow. God of darkness, literally. Or Rotwang could be maybe Rerir. And so both of them are out and about. That is all my thoughts. I'm so happy right now. I think, like, I've been writing notes down for days, just like, talk about this. And they've just been piling up. And I haven't had a chance to talk about them. I do have another thought about the arrow that was lent to the Lightkeepers and their lighthouses. I'm just wondering basically if there's a connection there, but that might become more relevant if/when we... Oh! I'm working on it! I'm gonna leave soon! If/when we head to the Lightkeeper area, wherever that may be. We want to check out the graveyard, of course. I think somebody said the Archon quest would take us there. And so maybe we will learn more about the lighthouses there. But I'm just wondering if maybe there's a connection between the lighthouses and the technology of the arrow of Hyperborea that was lent to the first Lightkeepers. And what else do we have? Oh yeah, other thoughts. Okay. My last thought, which is an open-ended one. This is a question that I have that I will be keeping an eye out for in the future. We got so many answers today. We finally read so many things I wanted to read. I finally got to say so many things I got to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, because this was extremely satisfying to me. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. If you feel that there's something you can add that's not a spoiler, you know, something that I've missed or didn't quite make the connection on with the information I have currently. If you want to add, I would appreciate. But I'll leave you with my final open-ended question. And please don't answer this unless I should have this information already. Why did Hyperborea worship the moons? That's my question. Because my understanding of Hyperborea is it's a unified civilization city of massive size. And so by unified civilization, it had emissaries of the heavenly principles there, right? The angels themselves. And so this was very early on in human history. the Heavenly Principles' influence was still actively present in human civilization through those angels. Why did at least some people there worship the Frost Moon? If the Frost Moon predates Heavenly Principles civilization and is more affiliated with the dragons, I feel like the Heavenly Principles would forbid that sort of worship. It also raises the question of how do the people know about the moons? How do the people know about the moons? When did the Ark open? Because potentially the people knew about the moons because they saw them before the false sky went up. Because they know that there used to be 3. Humans were around during the Funerary War, right? So yeah, you can. I think, hopefully you can see what my question is. How did humans start to worship the Frost Moon? But yeah, so that's my open-ended question right now. Again, please don't answer it unless I should have this information. Or if I could access this information, you could maybe tell me where it is, if you're willing to chime in. But basically, how did Hyperborea start to worship, maybe not the whole city, maybe just some people from the city, the Frost Moon, when theoretically the moon should already be behind the false sky, and or destroyed, and or at the very least, they're not a Heavenly Principle sanctioned entity. Unless potentially they had an alliance, or a truce, you could say, with the Heavenly Principles until they were destroyed. Maybe they were so integral to the functioning of the planet that the Heavenly Principles allowed them to remain, even though they overthrew the dragons. And as far as I can tell, they were of dragon make? This is the one point where the moons being of dragon make kind of doesn't make sense. But nothing aligns. If everything else is true, then this part doesn't make sense. But if this part is true, then nothing else makes sense. So I really feel like there's just either like a political thing that I haven't learned yet, namely the Heavenly Principles agreeing to let the Moon Sisters maintain their authority, or there's some sort of like cosmic event I haven't heard about yet. Or maybe it is the timeline. It would make sense if Hyperborea existed before the Funerary Year and before the Ark's opening. But then did humans? Okay. Checked before Sun and Moon. And it looks like it took the Primordial One 400 years to terraform Tevat and create humans. And then the Ark was opened. So indeed, humans might have walked Tevat before the sky was made false. Potentially. So they could have seen the 3 moons and then continued to worship them even though the sky went different. Like, I wondered, did they wonder what happened to the other 2 moons? Why there's only 1 left in the sky? Did the moon look different? Did they question that? But then they know that the moons were destroyed during the Funerary Year. And now we're here. Still feel like there's something there. Anyways, let us move on. We've got maintenance coming our way. Let's get out of here. So, I am officially done here. Thank you all so much for coming to the study session. I hope you enjoyed. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters, as always. Jay Blakewood, Clonosard, Power of Chaos, Mary, Edu, G. Brillia, the Loyal Servant of Her Majesty, the Tsaritsa, Ruru, Axel Iron, Jay Quellen, Lunar, Matsan, Marcin, Marcus, Sal, Don't Call It, Brian, Warp, Summer, Mo, all of our anonymous patrons, and a new patron who recently joined the team, Lysaria. Thank you for your support, Lysaria. I hope you enjoyed. I hope everyone did. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye now!